work. City children.
Activist Radio is on the air. You have tuned into the Mark Harrington Show, sponsored by Created Equal. Mark is training a new generation of leaders to take on the culture of death and win.
If you don't like abortion, don't have one.
The only thing that can be said to be objective truth is that there is no objective truth.
It does come out in one piece. It comes out in one piece.
I would argue that we certainly are not all created equal.
And now, here's Mark.
Your radio activist here, Mark Harrington, coming to you live from the Created Equal studios here in Columbus, Ohio. Thank you for joining us today on the Mark Harrington Show, your voice of resistance. And I'm also the national director for the organization Created Equal. And our vision is to raise up the next generation of leaders to take on the culture of death and win. And how we win is that we outlaw abortion. Eventually we outlaw it. We have to outlaw it in order to win. And we're a long way away from that, but we're working towards that goal. We're going to be talking about things that are happening in Washington, D.C. and across the country today on the Mark Harrington Show, especially, or specifically, I should say, some of the comments that have been made by national leaders, Hillary Clinton, the DNC chairman, Tom Price, and, of course, the minority leader, Nancy Pelosi, who just the other day, when interviewed by the Washington Post, said that abortion is, quote, kind of a fading issue, unquote. She said, abortion is kind of a fading issue, and we're going to play some sound for that, and I'm going to make some comments on it here in a moment. But before we do, I want to bring you up to speed, some breaking news out of Washington, D.C. If you've been following things, the repeal and replace of Obamacare, that bill, which has been referred to as the American Health Care Act, or the AHCA, is going to be voted on today in Washington. And before we get started, I want to make sure folks get an opportunity to call your congressman, that is your House of Representative, that is, and share with them your desire for them to vote for the AHCA, or the repeal of Obamacare. And by the way, as far as we know, what we've been seeing now in the text of the law, there is a defunding of Planned Parenthood, although they're not specifically named, and also the inclusion of eliminating any funding streams to the abortion industry. So that's all good, along with a lot of other things in that bill. So please call your congressman right now and let them know what you feel about the repeal of Obamacare and the defunding of Planned Parenthood. So that's what's happening on Capitol Hill today. But what happened this week was a kind of a combination of a couple things. Actually, last week, there were some comments by the DNC chair, the Democrat National Committee chair, Tom Price, who was touring the country with Bernie Sanders. We all know who Bernie is, of course, right? They were touring the country in what they were calling the, quote, unity tour, the unity tour. And so what they did is they visited a mayoral candidate in Omaha, Nebraska. And what made this news was this candidate was pro-life, you see. He was pro-life. And that was big news because Bernie Sanders and the DNC chair, Tom Price, were campaigning for a pro-life mayoral candidate. And that made big news because the Democrat National Committee, Democrats generally, are pro-abortion, almost all of them, bar maybe a few. And so this was huge news. And of course, the NARAL and Planned Parenthood and all the other abortion advocacy groups jumped all over this and basically said, why are you, as a DNC chair, why are you campaigning, Bernie Sanders, why are you campaigning for a pro-life candidate who's a Democrat? And so Tom Price was forced to kind of walk back some of his comments or whatever. And he came out and said categorically that the abortion issue is a non-negotiable for Democrats if they want to run for political office. He said that we need to be speaking with one voice And that one voice is pro-abortion. There's going to be no dissent in the Democrat Party. That's basically what he said, despite the fact that he was campaigning for a pro-lifer in Omaha, Nebraska. That led to those comments by the DNC chair, Tom Price, that abortion was a non-negotiable and that Democrats need to speak with one voice on abortion, that is a pro-abortion voice, led to the comments in the Washington Post by Democrat Nancy Pelosi, the minority leader of the House of Representatives, who, and what we want to do here is we're going to play some sound. It's actually a video, but it's only sound from the Washington Post website. This is Nancy Pelosi interviewed by the Washington Post, and she's asked about these comments by Tom Price and the controversy over the fact that Tom Price and Bernie Sanders were campaigning for a pro-life advocate. So let's go ahead and play that clip.
Kind of fading is an issue. And it really is. I mean, it's not fading in the hearts and minds of the people who are that way. That's why, you know what? That's why Donald Trump is president of the United States.
Yeah, stop right there. Stop right there. I just want to make a comment on that. She says that it's kind of a fading issue. Nancy Pelosi says abortion is kind of a fading issue. Now, she qualifies that by saying, well, it's not fading with the people that feel strongly about it. You know, I think what she's trying to say is Democrats, as far as abortion being an issue, is fading, but it's not fading as it relates to the rest of the country and their views on abortion. Still very hot topic, huge political topic. And then she goes on to say that Donald Trump was elected because of his so-called anti-choice position. So it's clearly not fading in the minds and hearts of Americans, but it may be fading as far as an issue in the Democrat Party. That's true, because if you're not pro-abortion and you're Democrat, you're going to have severe political consequences. You're not going to get the endorsement of other Democrats. You're not getting the DNC helping you out. You're not going to get money. It's highly unlikely that a Democrat can even get elected these days, even though very few of them do. And so she says that it's a fading issue, and she means that within the Democrat Party because they're basically monolithic on abortion, meaning they're pro-abortion. But it's not a fading issue with the American people, those who feel strongly about it. But she does make the comments that Donald Trump, in her opinion, was elected in large regard because of his so-called anti-choice position. So let's go ahead and finish the sound on Ms. Pelosi.
Anti-marriage equality, anti-choice. That's how he got to be president. Overlooked everything about environment, feed the hungry, ministered to the needs of the sick and the poor, and all the things they all stand for. And they're beautiful. Evangelicals, we work with them, so many immigration issues, preserving God's planet, which I believe it is too. We have to be good stewards. But everything was trumped, literally and figuratively, by that. But you know what? The vitality of the party is what is exciting. Can somebody get the nomination? I don't think so. You know,
all right, we can stop there. She says that there's vitality within the Democrat Party. Well, to me, vitality is a kind of a addressing of all kinds of issues, not just being monolithic on everyone. So there's very little vitality in the Democrat Party, especially on abortion. No question about it. That has changed. In fact, just if we walk down memory lane here for a minute, let's just take a walk down memory lane and think back just even a decade ago or less, where there were what we called blue dog Democrats. Remember them? Blue dog Democrats. Blue dog Democrats were Democrats in the House of Representatives on Capitol Hill who were conservative and specifically pro-life. And in 2009, there were approximately 60 so-called blue dog Democrats. If you recall the whole debate over Obamacare and whether that was going to get passed or not in the U.S. House of Representatives was dependent on the votes of blue dog Democrats being pro-life, and Obama was having a hard time bringing them on board for the so-called Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare, because he wanted to include provisions that funded abortion. And the blue dog Democrats didn't want to do that. So as a group, as a bloc, they said they would not vote for Obamacare. Well, when push come to shove, as you well know, Bart Stupak, the representative from New York, which, by the way, was thrown out of office right after this, compromised on the Obamacare provisions regarding the funding of abortion by allowing President Obama at the time to sign an executive order that would supposedly keep funding away from the abortion industry. Of course, we know that didn't happen, but eventually the Blue Dog Democrats in the House of Representatives caved on the provision regarding the funding of abortion in Obamacare. But since then, since 2009, there are no more such thing as a Blue Dog Democrat. They're gone. In fact, there may be like 3 or 4 House Democrats who are pro-life. 3 or 4 out of almost 200 Democrats in the House of Representatives who are pro-life. So what's happened over the last decade or so, or even longer for that matter, is this notion that if you're a Democrat, you have to be pro-abortion. And so that's what this debate was about this week. Of course, Hillary Clinton spoke at the Planned Parenthood Gala. You know, boy, what a great thing to attend there. Let's go to the Planned Parenthood Gala and support abortion killing. She was given what they called the Champion of the Century Award from Planned Parenthood. So she spoke at the Planned Parenthood fundraiser this week and was given the Champion of the Century Award. Now, I know it's 2017. I wonder who they're going to give the Champion of the Century next month. I mean, couldn't there be another champion for Planned Parenthood? They still got, probably 83 years left in this century. Of course, I hope they're not around. But she was given the Champion of the Century and said that the reproductive health, or i.e. abortion killing, is under attack by the Trump administration. So that she came out of hiding, so to speak, and now is back on the activist trail. She says she's going to be part of the resistance to Donald Trump. So that, along with Pelosi's comments and Tom Price's comments, kind of brought about this perfect storm of debate over abortion in our nation's capital. But folks, the bottom line is this. You need to understand there are no Blue Dog Democrats left in the U.S. Congress. None. Zero. If you are Democrat, you have to be pro-abortion or you're not going to get the support of the party. You're more than likely not going to get elected. Nancy Pelosi referenced the fact that if you're running for national office or, for that matter, president, you're certainly not going to get the nomination. So what has happened over the last several years is that there are no such things as pro-life Democrats anymore. There aren't. And I say good riddance anyway. I mean, listen, if the Democrats are going to support child killing, let them support child killing. Let the Republicans, hopefully, become the pro-life party, which, begs the question, are they? There's a whole lot there we could talk about, too much for this program today, but there are some good things coming out of the Republican Congress on abortion and, of course, the Trump administration. But I would rather it be that way. We've got a party of death and we have a party of life. We have a party of child killing and we have a party of the culture of life. We have a party of child sacrifice in the biblical sense, and we have a party of the sanctity of human life, that party that believes that we're made in the image of God and we deserve dignity and the right to life. So to me, it doesn't matter if there's really any Democrats who are pro-life anymore. Let them go off. And the bottom line is if they want to do that, they're going to lose elections. They lost the presidency in part because of that. They're losing elections across the board in state houses around the country where Republicans have a majority of the state houses. They have the majority of the governorships across the country. So this is a losing issue. If you just took it on the political pragmatist side of things, this issue of abortion is a losing issue for the Democrats. They are the party of death. They are the party of child killing. And I beg to differ with Ms. Pelosi when she talks about abortion, the issue fading in the country. That's not happening. It might be fading as an issue within the Democrat Party, but it's certainly not fading as an issue for Americans because we still very much care about what's going on that. Also, what I wanted to do is what led to all this when Miss Pelosi, blamed the abortion issue on the failure of Hillary Clinton to win the White House and gave that to Donald Trump in part because of the abortion issue. I actually have to agree with her. I was watching the debate the night that they brought up the abortion issue. Well, Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton were asked about abortion. And what I want to do is I want to go back to that. This was in, I think, October. It was, I don't know if it was the second or third debate, but I'd like to play the clip that shows the interchange, the interaction between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton on abortion. And you tell me which one is the extreme candidate on this issue. So let's go ahead and cue up that clip of Donald Trump in the debate, the presidential debate of 2016 in October on the abortion issue. If we could play that.
With what Hillary is saying, in the 9th month, you can take the baby and rip the baby out of the womb of the mother just prior to the birth of the baby. Now, you can say that that's okay, and Hillary can say that that's okay, but it's not okay with me. Because based on what she's saying and based on where she's going and where she's been, you can take the baby and rip the baby out of the womb in the 9th month on the final day. And that's not acceptable.
Well, that is not what happens in these cases. And using that kind of scare rhetoric is just terribly unfortunate.
Scare rhetoric. I love it.
With some of the women that I've met with, women I've known over the course of my life.
That have killed their children.
This is one of the worst possible choices that any woman and her family has to make. And I do not believe the government should be making it. You know, I've had the great honor of traveling across the world on behalf of our country. I've been to countries where governments either forced women to have abortions like they used to do in China, or forced women to bear children like they used to do in Romania. And I can tell you the government has no business in the decisions that women make with their families in accordance with their faith, with medical advice, and I will stand up for that right.
All right.
Why don't we pause it right there, if you would, Mr. Producer? I want to comment on that. There's a lot there. First of all, you can give, Donald Trump's not a pro-life apologist, right? We understand that. He's just not. I mean, the guy hasn't gone through the created equal training on how to present the pro-life position, but he gets one thing, and he explained it in the only way he knew how, when he said that they are being ripped out of the wombs of their mothers. I mean, he gave the procedure, if you will, the dismembering, decapitation, and disemboweling of a preborn baby. He described it in detail for the American people. And it's my view on that night that he won the presidency, because there were a lot of pro-life people who were uncertain about him on this issue. And I think that showed where he stood. And then obviously the extreme views of Hillary Clinton came out in her responses to Donald Trump. She said, Hillary did, that the government should not be dictating what a woman should do with her own body. Well, it's interesting. The government dictates what people do with their own bodies all the time. In fact, the government forces men to pay child support for children that they may not want. What's that all about? The government forces people to behave a particular way in their own bedrooms when they say that rape is illegal and should be punished by law. There's a lot of things the government does to control supposedly our own body. The fact of the matter is, this isn't a woman's body anyway. It's another body developing inside her. That is the preborn child. But set that aside, the government makes decisions all the time to control people's bodies. So let's go ahead and finish off this clip, this debate. This was the debate in October of 2016, the presidential debate between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. And the reason I'm bringing this all up is because now it's clear that probably Trump won the election in part because of his pro-life view and because the Democrats are extremists on this issue. They support child killing, unabated child killing, and they support the fact that you and I should pay for it using our tax dollars. Go ahead and finish off the clip.
He has business doing what I just said, doing that as late as 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 days prior to birth. Nobody has that.
All right.
Well, there you go. Now, the truth of the matter is not very few, if any, abortions occur a couple days before. But the point of the matter is they could. It's legal to do it in many places. This just showed the extreme views of the Democrat Party, period. And they are doubling down on this view. And to me, that's just going to mean they're going to be losing more elections. They are the party of death. They are the party of child killing. They are the party, may I dare say, of child sacrifice. And when I say that, it's not hyperbole. I mean, I use that term child sacrifice because it's true. Now, it's not something I'm going to go on a college campus and talk to students about because they really don't have the understanding or context of what I mean by that. But as a Christian, which most of my audience are probably Christian or religious in one way or the other, you'll understand what child sacrifice is. You'll understand, if you know your Bibles, what child sacrifice is about. It's referenced in the Old Testament in several places. And so we need to, as Christians, understand that this is child sacrifice and that the Democrats are, this is almost like a sacrament for them to their own religion, which is a pagan god. It's Satan, if you will. And it's the shedding of innocent blood. It's a blood sacrifice for political gain. In that way, it is child sacrifice. They are willing to sacrifice the blood of preborn children in order to get elected. Now, many of them are getting elected because of that view, but it is child sacrifice. And the reason I bring this up is because I think we need to understand it as Christians in the biblical context. Not that we need to go out on a college campus or anywhere else and make that our first argument that it's child sacrifice, because that'll typically go over the heads of most people who don't come to this issue from a religious point of view. But it should be part of our argument, especially it should be something we were willing to discuss with our fellow brothers and sisters in Christ or our pastors or our churches, that it is child sacrifice. And so just briefly, I'm going to make the case here. And if you would pull up the article, this is from my good friends at the Center for Bioethical Reform, Greg Cunningham, who wrote this article on whether abortion is child sacrifice, and using very graphic images, of course, to make the case. These are signs that they are proposing to take around the country to Christian churches to try to wake them up to the idea that abortion is child sacrifice. And Mr. Cunningham has created this image here, this drawing here of a child being sacrificed to the pagan god or idol of Molech. And we find in several passages in the Old Testament, and he references Ezekiel 16, verse 21, that child sacrifice was happening in the Old Testament. And it says there in Ezekiel 16:21, you took your sons and daughters and sacrificed them to idols to be devoured, causing them to pass through the fire. Now, there are other verses in the Bible talking about that, this idea of sacrificing your children to a pagan god or idol, a Molech, or other idols like that. And the question is there a analogy that we can make to abortion killing? Is child sacrifice similar to abortion killing or not? Or is this just kind of an extremist view, kind of fear-mongering or whatever? And the truth of the matter is, I think we can. In a way, it is contemporary child sacrifice. Now, we're not taking our children. I say we, those who support abortion or women who are having abortions, aren't taking their children and passing them through the fire to a pagan idol like Molech. We understand that. But if you think about it, children are being sacrificed on the altar, so to speak, rhetorically or figuratively, on the altar of what? Choice. I don't want a baby right now. I want to finish my career. I don't want to break up with my boyfriend. I can't afford the child right now. I can't take care of the child, etc., etc. It's usually on the altar, if you will, of self. That is, I'm thinking about myself only. I'm not thinking about this child. And because of that, I'm going to sacrifice the child, so to speak, in abortion so that I can carry on with my life. So in a sense, it is child sacrifice. Now, once again, this isn't an argument I'm going to be making with someone who doesn't believe in Christ, someone who doesn't understand the Bible. I think it doesn't make sense to do that. Now, you might be able to bring it in at some point down the road, but this is something Christians should understand, that it is child sacrifice. And we have a party in Washington, and now increasingly in our state houses, even down to the local level, that supports child sacrifice. And the sacrifice they're making to these children is for political gain. So, like I say, we're not sacrificing to golden idols or whatever, or that kind of thing, but we are sacrificing children. We're slaughtering children to the idols of self in our culture. And that's what we need to understand as Christians as we come to this issue. It's not just murder. It's not just killing. It's even worse, if there's such a thing. It's the sacrifice of innocent children to the idols of our day. And therefore, I think it's rightly positioned in some context, in a religious context mostly, as child sacrifice. So, folks, what I want you to do as we're talking about this issue today is, once again, the House of Representatives are going to be voting on the American Health Care Act, or the repeal of Obamacare. I want you to go to your phone right now and ask your representative in Congress to support the AHCA, or the repeal of Obamacare. That vote's being held today, and I have read the portions of the bill that include the defunding of Planned Parenthood and the provisions that would be included in the bill that would cut off funding for the abortion industry. Hyde language, if you will, a Hyde Amendment language. So all funding streams to the abortion industry will be severed by the vote, which would repeal Obamacare here in the House of Representatives. Of course, if it gets passed today or whenever, it'll go over the Senate. I'm sure there's going to be a tougher fight over there, but we need to get this thing done, and we need to defund Planned Parenthood so that we can eventually defeat Planned Parenthood and put them on the ash heap of history. So, in summary, I want to just conclude by saying this, that abortion killing is a political litmus test for the Democrat Party. If you are not pro-abortion, if you don't support child killing, you are no longer welcome in the Democrat Party. No matter what Nancy Pelosi tried to say, that, yeah, there can be a candidate here or there, but they're really never going to get anywhere. That has changed over the last 10 years. You cannot be a Democrat. The blue dog Democrats, they're gone. And we're finding this more and more at the state level and the local level. From top to bottom in the Democrat Party, if you are not a strong supporter of abortion, you have no place in the party. You need to toe the party line when it comes to the shedding of blood, or else you are not going to get support. You're unlikely to get elected ever again. And that's the position of the party. We saw that with the platform at the Democrat National Convention, where they jettisoned this whole notion of so-called safe, legal, and rare. If you remember that from Bill Clinton, his famous words in the 1990s, that abortion should be safe, legal, and rare. Well, they threw that over the side. They don't use that anymore. They don't care about it being safe, legal, and rare. It needs to be on demand for any reason whatsoever up until birth, and it should be funded by your tax dollars. That's the view of the Democrat Party at current here in Washington and across the country. So, folks, one more time, let's go to that screen. Call your congressman right now by going to 202-224-3121 and ask them to vote for the repeal of Obamacare, which includes the defunding of Planned Parenthood and the cutting off of all funding streams for abortion in the federal government. And finally, I wanted to bring you up to speed on some recent updates that we're going to be, some of the things we're going to be doing at the Created Equal. Starting in June, on June 3rd through 11, we're going to be having our Justice Ride here. And you can, if you're a young person listening to the program or a parent, and you'd like to sign up one of your young people, your son or daughter, feel free to go to our website at justiceride.org. And we still have some limited room for that on June 3rd and 11th. Of course, our internship also begins this summer on June 3rd. We'll be having almost a dozen or more young people coming to our offices in Columbus to learn how to be preborn defenders. Folks, I appreciate you tuning in. Remember, tune in every Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time here on Facebook and other media platforms. We'll see you next time. God bless you. God bless America. And remember, America, to bless God.
You've been listening to Mark Harrington, your radio activist. For more information on how to become a witness against the evil plague in America, call Created Equal at 614-269-7808, 614-269-7808, or go online to createdequal.net. Createdequal.net. Be sure to tune to the Mark Harrington Show next time for your marching orders in the culture war.
World's on fire, our culture is disintegrating.